It was a very slow process. The whole process from the beginning of the conversation to the actual closing of the schools took 2 years. I spent the first 6 months working with the Board of Education, showing them the financial data, talking to them about the long-term implications for the community in terms of the tax rate. Once the Board of Education was on board, we went out and did a very comprehensive study.
They wanted to do a complete analysis of the building capacity to see, is there in fact enough capacity across the district really to be able to close one of the elementary buildings. So they initiated a partnership with a consultant who did a building capacity study.
Going through looking at enrollment, looking at space in the school district, because just due to financial situations, we had a feeling that things were not going to be looking good in the future. And we also knew that we had a declining enrollment, but we needed the evidence.
Looking back, I think we could have done a lot of things better in terms of communicating about this process as a school district. We did not have a specific communications plan, which is a huge mistake. Without one, I don't think that our community really understood the problem. And I think even though we hired a consultant to do research for us, and he came out with options, all the community saw were decisions.
Throughout this period, we had been talking each year through the budget cycle about how difficult the financial choices facing the district were. We communicated heavily that this community-based group was going to be looking at ways that we could reduce costs or increase some revenue. We talked about the conclusion that they came to, that this option of closing a school was worth investigating further.
So you had to explain to the public the declining enrollment and how the area, we just don't have as many students anymore that need to be educated. The more you can communicate with people, things that they hadn't thought about, because you've got to get over that hump of that emotional connection, to the school.
It was just kind of a lot of information sharing and making sure people understood. While no one wants to close a school, this may be our best chance to realize some savings that help us preserve programs for students.
Our research got stalled to the point where we had to stop and reset the entire process because we got so much pushback from the community. We got tons of phone calls, tons of letters, people, reaching out to us, but looking back, I think we could have done a much better job kind of selling the problem and bringing people in before the report was really finalized and the options released.
What we did once we got the report back, we started a series of public forums of educating the community. I think we had 8 to 10 over a period of 6 to 8 months of community opportunities to look at the different options.
We wanted staff, we wanted community members, we wanted business members, we wanted families that had kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, because this was a community event that was going to happen. It could potentially affect everybody in our community. So we needed as much input as we could possibly get.
The district engaged the broader community, the entire Guilderland school community, through a series of focus groups to really look at school closure being one option, but what are some other options? I would say there was close to 100 people who attended that conversation and really identified a series of other options for reconsidering the idea of closure.
We brought anybody who was concerned. We had them sign up at the first big meeting we had, letting them know we were going to stay in contact with them. We had them sign up to come to another informational session where we broke off into small groups.
Once the superintendent conducted the feasibility study and we published that, we had 2 community forums where people could kind of come out and weigh in and ask questions, and we did an online portion of that so people who weren't able to come to the forum could actually watch it live and submit some questions online, and then every once in a while we'd go to a question from our home audience.
There was a lot of transparency. We invited everybody up to the high school to hear the original, study. We invited community members in.
I mean, if you're not sharing information with people about what's happening and really the why of what you're doing and the stakes of what you're considering, then people don't really have any context for what's happening, and they don't know that these decisions, while they may not be decisions that they like, are being made in a thoughtful way in the best interest of the community, the taxpayers, the students, and that you not only have a real responsibility to look into these issues, but you have a real plan to continue to support students, even though you need to make a choice that, will be unpopular with some.
This was really the first time we were really hearing from the community. Even though we had tried, we didn't get a lot. So we took that feedback and we said, okay, let's slow down. So feeling heard is really, really important.
The challenge was to listen and to go slow enough and to answer, I'm going to say, some questions that at first glance might even seem somewhat ridiculous, but we answered them.
As much as, the schools serve the community serves the schools, and they go hand in hand. They have to have a good relationship. They need to feel confident that what you're doing is in both their best interest and the students' best interest. And it's very much a give and take that I don't think we quite put enough emphasis on when we started, but we certainly learned very quickly that we weren't going to go anywhere without making that change and really focusing on doing this together as a group.